Hello, everybody. I saw the comments coming in early, and I was like, "Oh no, am I live already?" I was doing a dry run with my teammate Nandi, who's going to be on with us today, answering questions in the comments. So yes, I am Nick. I am the Nick from the chat there. I'm in Nova Scotia at the moment, visiting family, so I'm not on the usual west coast of Canada. I'm on the east coast of Canada today, and Nandi is tuning in from. Well, I'll let Nandi post in the comments here. So we got Norway, Spain, Chicago, Detroit, nice, Venezuela. Very worldwide crew today. So future reference, those comments will be live on the page. I now know that. Okay. Oh, Nandi, you posted in the private chat. You want to post in the comments. Nandi's first time on a webinar with us. She's a pretty new teammate, so this is going to be her first experience in a webinar. So let me get started here, I guess. First, turn off the music here. Okay, so hopefully you know where you are, but if not, this is Browse AI 101, understanding the basics. So this is getting started with Browse AI. It's a pretty intro session, not meant to get too deep into anything. For those who might just be getting started or maybe want a refresher because you signed up for a trial a couple weeks ago and you don't really remember. So let's jump into some slides first. I've got a few slides with some terminology and a bit of intro, and then we'll jump into some live demo stuff. So first, I guess, who am I? I didn't introduce myself. My name is Nick. I've been at Browse AI since August of 2023. Before that, I worked at Zapier for 7 years. So I was a customer champion and then customer success and then a community manager. So I got to see a lot of different apps, and I kind of just fell in love with no code and automation and apps. And now we've got AI. So I love all this stuff. And actually, a few years ago, I bought the original Browse AI lifetime deal. I didn't quite even know what I was going to do with web scraping. Maybe that's some of you on this call. But I thought it was a very cool product, and I figured I might need this someday. And so I signed up, and now here I am. I get to teach all you fine folks about Browse AI. So before we get too far, I wanted to clarify web crawling versus web scraping. It's a common misconception. Maybe they're the same thing. What is the difference? Web crawling systematically explores and indexes the web. So it's usually search engines and web archives that are navigating through an entire website, following links to discover and index subpages. So all the links follow all the pages. Web scraping is more of a targeted approach. So you specify the data you'd like to extract, and then you collect that information in particular. So it could be products, could be people, could be properties, could be all kinds of things. You specify what you'd like to scrape, and Browse AI is a platform with a feature where you can scrape data from web pages without having to know any coding. So we're not a web crawling platform. We do web scraping. And about Browse AI, in a nutshell, you extract data from any website without code. You can monitor websites for changes automatically. So whatever you've specified you want to scrape, you can set up a monitor on the schedule of your choosing to go check that website and get any new data. You can integrate data into your existing tools. So whether it's the native integrations we have with Google Sheets and Airtable, or if you want to use something like Zapier or Make or Pabbly to send it elsewhere, we've also got webhooks and an API, AWS. We'll get into that in a little bit. And those are some of the reasons we're trusted by over 500,000 users worldwide. And we're a flexible solution anywhere from startup, solopreneur, freelancer, to small, medium business, to enterprise. So we run the gamut of who's using Browse AI. So I'll try not to bore you with this, but I do want to get some terminology out of the way so that we're all on the same page with the words that I'm using. So the robot is the automated assistant that you are training to extract and monitor the web data for you. So you train the robot to do what you would be doing manually, selecting data and extracting that. The origin URL is the starting web address where your robot begins extracting data. I say starting address because you can start on one page and then teach the robot to click into some tabs or maybe navigate on that page. So this is the starting web address, the origin URL. Input parameters. You can see in this screenshot right here, you've got a search box in which I've typed automation and then the limit of items I'd like to scrape. Those are just a couple of the options for input parameters. The most common one is a search term. So you go to a website and you search for something. And in the future, you can make a flexible robot that you can put a different search term. So here, instead of automation, I could put technology or finance and then get those results. Next, we've got the task. That's the individual data extraction job that your robot's going to complete for you. So every time your robot runs, it uses a task to do that. We call that a task. Task is different than a credit. A credit is how you pay for tasks. So websites use a certain number of credits to extract list items as well as static text on pages. So tasks are the running of the robot, and credits are how you pay for the task itself. A bulk run is different than doing a single scraping where you say, hey, this URL, and then go get this data. A bulk run can be done either by importing a CSV or via a workflow where you've got a list of URLs and you say, I've got these URLs I'd like for you to go scrape, do all of them. And then that's called a bulk run. And on the right, you can see the screenshot of what that looks like. So you can see how many there were here. There were 10 of them, and it runs all of those at once. Tables are how you can view and organize and export or import the data that's captured by your robots. So rather than having to view it in Google Sheets or Airtable or elsewhere, you can view it in Browse AI in tables. As I mentioned earlier, the monitor is an automated tracking system that you set up that will watch for changes on specific web pages. So on the right here in the screenshot, you can see that I've set it to run every day on all the days. Any time of day is fine. I've put the origin URL, how many items I'd like to scrape, and then I gave it a name. And you can also choose to be notified by email if you'd like. Deep scraping is the term that probably confuses the most people because we've got a very specific way of doing it that might not be how your brain originally thinks of it. You're essentially extracting a list of items, and then you scrape info from each of those items, single or detail pages. So I could scrape a list of people. Let's say there's 100 people in a directory, and then I want to get data from each of those people's individual pages. So that's called deep scraping. And Robot Studio is the interface that we train robots in to extract data. We do also have a Chrome extension. That's where Browse AI began. It does serve its purposes sometimes. There are some reasons you might want to use it. But in general, Robot Studio is where I would suggest starting. It's where all the development is happening. It's the latest and greatest. And I'll show you in a moment inside of Robot Studio. Capture list is exactly what it sounds like. You're capturing a list of items. So this is going to be a repeating pattern of things. So you've got products. Maybe it could be a list. It could be a grid. You've got real estate listings, things like that, where you're capturing a list. And I put an asterisk because it's common for people to think, oh, I'll extract a list of items and then nothing else from that page, just a list of items. You can also get static text from a page that has a list. Conversely, you can also capture text on a detail page, which you would think that's where you get details about a person. But you can also capture lists. And I'll show you an example of that where you can capture a list of items where you might not think to be capturing a list of items. And I believe this is the last slide. Pre-built robots are robots we've built and refined for specific websites and use cases. So you can start with one of those, and if it works perfectly for you, great. You don't have to build anything. Otherwise, you can build your own custom robots. But if you go to Browse AI's website and then in the top menu, check out pre-built robots, you might find exactly what you're looking for. All you have to do is put in a couple of pieces of information, and then the scraping gets done for you. Workflows are how you connect two robots to work together automatically. So you build a robot that gets the list, you build a robot that gets the details, and then the workflow connects the two. When robot A runs, run robot B. And you can also choose when you want robot B to run. And I'll get to that in a little bit here. Integrations, as I mentioned, we've got Google Sheets, Airtable. If you want to use Zapier, Pabbly, or Make to send it to other apps, we've got a REST API. There's webhooks. There's also AWS, and Integrately is an unofficial integration, but you can also use it that way. Okay, so that is all the terms I'm going to give you. These are just some of the use cases. I'll just let you have a look at that as I take a sip of water, and I'm wondering if anyone's got a use case they would like to share. Yes, this is being recorded, Mark, and you'll get the recording afterwards. Anybody want to share what they are doing with Browse AI? Competitive intelligence is a big one, tracking prices and features and marketing, aggregating content from multiple sources and getting it all into one place. LLMs is becoming a bigger and bigger one, where the LLM can do a lot of the processing of the data. So you might not have to get it as cleanly. You just kind of get as much data as you can. Scraping blog posts, yep, that's a great one. Can it be used to scrape emails? Not the ideal use case. because that would be behind a login, and oftentimes there's two-factor authentication for logging emails. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily think of emails as a first use case, but interesting question. All right, I'm going to move y'all to my second display here so I can share my screen. And we'll get started with demoing some things here. All right, so the website I'm going to use as an example today, I debated using another one, but this one is just, it works so well, and it's a great example. It's Y Combinator's companies page. So if you're not familiar, Y Combinator is a incubator that helps startups come to life, essentially. And this is the company's listing for all, you can see all these batches. Like this goes back all the way back to 2005. So all these batches, there are multiple reasons you might want to scrape a listing like this. So if I click on spring 2025, for example, maybe I'm just interested in the most recent batch of startup companies. So the first thing I want to point out is many websites, not all, but many websites, when you click into a filter, the URL changes to reflect that filter. So that's already a great starting point. If I don't want to train my robot to do this, and I know I'm always only going to want this particular batch, I can pre-select it and then use this URL, which is actually what I'm going to do in this case. So I'm going to scrape this list of items, and I'll copy this URL, go to Browse AI, build a new robot. And on this build new robot page, you're going to see extract structured data and monitor site changes. These functionally do the exact same thing, except that monitor site changes will immediately prompt you to create a monitor since you've indicated you want to do that. But they both will bring you to the same starting point of choosing Robot Studio or the Chrome extension, and everything after that's exactly the same, aside from monitor site changes immediately prompts you to create a monitor. So you can create a monitor afterwards. You're not lost if you don't pick this right away. You can do it afterwards. So I'm going to click on this, paste my URL. I don't need to log into this website, so I won't check that box. But you can scrape behind a login using the Chrome extension, either with session cookies or with a password. I'm not going to cover that in this webinar, but it can be done. Just be aware of that. Now, because we have pre-built robots for this website, when I scroll down, you'll notice that there are several pre-built robots you could choose from. These might be exactly what you want. You might want to try one and see if it's getting you the data that you're looking for. But for the purpose of this webinar, I'm going to show you how to train a robot. So I'm going to use Robot Studio. You could also use the Chrome extension, but in this case, Robot Studio is the better option. And when this page loads, it's going to look exactly like it does here. It's going to show me the website just as I saw it a moment ago. Okay, so it's got that box pre-checked because I did paste this URL. So when you first get into Robot Studio, you'll notice a couple of things. One, on the right, you've got this little robot assistant that kind of watches what you're doing. It's both a metaphor for, hey, I'm watching what you're doing, teach me, but also literally that's what you're going to do is train the robot. So you've got two options here. You can capture text or capture a screenshot. Let's capture a screenshot, actually. You can do selections, the entire page, or visible parts. Let's do a selection, and let's get the list of companies. And we'll call it companies screenshot. All right, so we've got the screenshot of the companies because I don't necessarily want everything else on this page, but it will get me all of these companies. So that's pretty cool. Next, I'm going to capture text. I could do just text. So as I mentioned before, this seems like it will be a list page, so you're going to get from a list, but I can get just text. Like if I wanted to get the page title, maybe this little blurb here under it. Can I get them separately? No, it looks like they're individual items. Actually, this is a good one. Showing 40 of 66 companies. That could be handy for you to know how many results were there. So I'll use those two only, and I'll press enter, and we'll call this page title and how many companies. All right, so I've gotten a screenshot. I've gotten a couple of pieces of text. Now let's do the most interesting part, which is to get the list of items. Now, when I select capture text and then from a list, as I hover, you'll notice apparently nothing is going to happen. Thanks. Don't do this to me. Is it because I did things before the list? Should have done the list first. Well, we're going to roll with this. I guess that's not going to go. So let's teach you something. You can restart the session. So let's do that. So I taught you how to do the other things. This robot won't get them because I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to go straight to the list. So as I hover, you'll notice that a lot of these things are lists. So I can get very precise. I wouldn't want these things probably. These are not what interests me. But as I hover, you'll notice the very obvious one, list item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is what I want to get. So I often scroll down to see, okay, it looks like it's getting all of them. But if you move your mouse a little bit, sometimes, depending on the website structure, it might not quite be right. Robot Studio is usually very accurate, but we can't cover all the possible website structures. But this looks good to me. So I'm going to click. And this is the best part of Robot Studio. It just goes through, scans, and figures out the data points I probably would be interested in. And that's done. I didn't have to select any of those. I didn't have to name them. Now, I can rename all these things. Like if I wanted to call this YC Companies list, I can rename that. I can remove columns. Let's say I'm not interested in the logo. I can click and remove it. And I can rename, maybe I just want this to be company and not company name. Press enter. So I can modify these things a little bit before I decide that I do want to capture it. I want to call out right here, workflow available. So what that's saying is, hey, this looks like it's a URL that goes to a deeper page on this website. You could build a workflow for that. So that's giving you kind of a heads up that workflows are a thing and it's something you can do from a list to a single page. Let's say I want, let's do 100 items. That sounds good. The next thing is, how can we find the next item? So I'm going to review the pagination so we can see that this is actually not clicking a load more. This is a scroll down. As I scroll, it loads more. So I don't have to do anything. So let's reselect the options for pagination. These are the most common ones. You probably encountered most of them. Click on next page to navigate to the next page, like as that little image shows. Click on load more. That's a very common one. Scroll down to load more, scroll up to load more. I've not seen as much, but it must be something because we have it in here. Or no more items. Sometimes there just won't be more items or you don't want more items, so you can click that option. So this one is scroll down to load more items. So now I've got my list created. I've got the number that I would want. I've got the pagination. And let's save this captured list. I want to point out also, you can select manually instead. Let's say for some reason it didn't get the data point you wanted. You can always remove them if it got too many. But if it didn't get something that you want to scrape, you can select manually. And it would look much like I did a moment ago when I'm selecting static text. You go through and select exactly all the pieces you want. You are then responsible for naming them. So that's one beautiful thing about the auto generation here is if it works for you, then great. You don't have to select the data points or name them. So let's save this captured list. I guess real quick, let's just capture text for the sake of it. I don't know why the reverse order didn't work a moment ago, but let's do that. And let's do this again. Press enter. Page title. How many? Okay. So we now have the list and the captured text. I won't bother with the screenshot. And you know what? I am going to bother with the screenshot. We have time, and I want to show you what that looks like afterwards. So I want this entire section of just the companies. Called screenshots. All right, now we're done. Now notice on the right here, you can, if you decided, oh, I don't care about the industry and sub-industry. You can remove industry. I'll delete that, and I'll remove sub-industry, and I'll delete that. And then I can check the data preview. So those are now gone. So even after you've saved the list, if you decide you don't want something after all, you can remove those. So let's finish this up and see what it does afterwards. So now we're going to suggest a robot name for you, another little piece that you don't have to come up with. So I'll keep it as YC Companies List. That's fine. And now the task is going to run on a cloud server. And you can see all the steps it's going to take. So my task is in the queue, hopefully not for too long here. I always forget to tell the dev team to not do stuff as I'm running webinars. All right, spinning up a new server on the cloud. And you're going to see here the number of items it's gotten so far. So 28, 66. It should go up to 100 because I said I wanted 100. Got those 2 pieces of data. I'll zoom in so you can see those 2 pieces of data I wanted. And it should say screenshot as well, probably right here. Yep, 1 screenshot. Very cool. That didn't take very long to get all of that information. So all those companies are in here. Got my couple pieces of text, and I've got my screenshot. So this is the screenshot. I can click on it. Can I make it bigger? No, because it's very tall. But as you can see, it got all of the companies that I wanted, that whole section. So that could be handy. And also down here, the final screen will show you all the steps that it took. So if I review this and say, okay, this looks good, then I'll scroll down. Yes, looks good. So thus far, I've trained it to get a list of items, a couple pieces of text, and a screenshot. So from this page, the run task page, you'll see my one history item. That's what I just did. I prompt to set up monitoring. I'm not going to do that just yet. And I can run a task now. So the origin URL I did originally was this batch right here. I could come in if I wanted to and either do a different batch, or maybe I want to add some filters. Maybe I only want B2B. And maybe just America, Canada. So I can now take this URL, copy this, and come run it. I don't need to build a second separate robot. That's a common misconception as well, is people think, well, I need to create another robot. If the page structure is identical or very similar to what you originally did, you just have to put in a different URL. So it's the exact same page. I just added some filters. So it changed what appeared there, but it didn't change the overall structure of it. Now, I couldn't go to necessarily a different style of page and run it and have it work, but this one will work. And how many companies are there? 31. So let's just say I don't have to change this, but I'll just change it to a lower number and I'll run that task. So now we'll watch it go and get me these results here. Actually, while that's running, well, it might not even take much longer. Next, I'm going to quickly show you how to make it a bit more flexible by putting in a search term. So I'm going to cross all these out, and maybe I don't want to limit batches, but I want to come in here and I want to search automation. If I spelled it right, automation. So I maybe want to get these 659 companies. So I could do this and get this URL. That would work just fine. And I could change the end of this to whatever I want it to be, but I prefer having the input parameter. So I'm actually going to do nothing to the URL, copy this one, and let's see this one. Yep, got me 31 companies. Very nice. So as you see, the differently filtered page worked just fine. So I'm going to quickly go build. I'm not going to rehash all the things I just did, but I'm going to show you how to do a search and then have that be a bit more flexible afterwards if you wanted to change the search term there. So my robot's going to watch everything I'm doing, including clicking into the search here and typing automation, press enter. Okay, so the results have now changed here. So now let's say capture text from a list items. I'm not going to fine tune or modify any of this stuff. Okay, it looks good. Let's say I want just 100. I know it's not click on load more. I know that it's scroll down. And save this captured list and finish. I should have renamed it something different to not confuse them, but I can do that afterwards. So once this one is run one time, I will, what else could I search here? Let's search finance. Okay, there's actually more finance than automation. Interesting. That surprises me. Okay, so this is now going to get me the 100 companies under automation. You can see the running tally here, 79. And 100. I should point out here, for this website, it's 10 credits. So 100 line items, list items, 10 credits. That means that one credit gets you 10 rows of data. You might think it's one-to-one, but it's not. You actually get 10 rows of data with one credit. Okay, so I've gotten these. Now let's go see what the run task page looks like now. So now I've got this extra box called search. So I can type in finance and then I'll run this task. So now that saves me the trouble of having to modify a URL, or I guess some of them might be obvious if I just wanted to change it on this run task page, change the URL, but some of them might not be as obvious. Certainly not. Yeah, there's all kinds of searches you could do that you might not know what it would look like to type it in. You don't have to. You just use the search term. All right, so now that we've done that and I've shown you how to do this, results are the same. Got me 100 items based on that search. Very cool. let's go back to my original search, which was spring 2025. Let's go get details from one of these companies. I can click into any of them. One more tip. I try and find the best possible representation of the page I'm trying to scrape. So in this case, I'm pretty sure I want to get the active founders, and there happen to be 3 of them there. So, and there's 2 of them here. Sometimes you might get a page that doesn't have all the pieces of data you want. I would go with the best representation that has the most pieces of data present that you're going to want. Like maybe some of them won't have a team size or whatever. Based on the website, all the data is not always there. So I'm going to use this one. It's got all the things I would want to capture. So let's copy this URL and go train a robot to do details. You can pick any one of them. It doesn't matter which one you pick, because in the future, it's just going to scrape that type of page. So any one of those single pages will work. Okay, so in this case, I guess one more tip is I've already gotten some of the data from the list items page. So I might say to myself, oh, I already got the name. I already got other things. I don't necessarily want to scrape that again. But if you want to look at the data just in the table from this second robot that gets all the data, I would just get the same things again if you want to, instead of going back and forth. We are working on, and someday you will be able to join multiple robots tables together, but currently you'd have to look at the table for the list items and then the table for this page separately. So why not get the same data that's in the original and just have it all in one place? So name, this little blurb thing. I could get these pieces of data here, like the batch and the status, but they're also over here. I've done this enough to know that it's usually more reliable if it's in a format like this, like on the right, than in little like labels, because sometimes those are reordered or not present or whatever. So I'm going to skip them over there and get them over here. So I'll get founded, batch. Now notice as I move my mouse, it changes what I'm capturing. So be very careful that you're getting only what you want, because you could select this and you'll get the words team size as well as 3. I don't want the words team size. I just want 3. So very precise mouse movements, and I'll get status, visible text, location, primary partner. This is an interesting one because you could do some deep scraping here. I can get the visible text, so the primary partner's name, and I can get also the link, and I'll show you in a minute what you might do with that link. And let's get also the website. That's enough. So let's press enter and name these. Company, description. I like when websites have a label for the thing, so I don't have to come up with it. So it's founded, batch, team size, status, location, primary partner, name, come on, and partner link, and website. Okay, so I've got all those pieces of data from this detail page. Very cool. But these founders down here, you might be tempted to do capture text and then just text. Like, oh, I just want a couple pieces of text. That's not quite the best way to do this, because you're only ever going to get the first item's worth of text if you just specify to get this. So that's not quite how I want to do it. When I mentioned earlier, you can combine text and list. I showed you an example, but this is another example. I'm on a detail page, so you might not think to also get a list, but I will do that. I'll get this list of items, 1, 2, 3. And now it goes through, scans those, and you got founders, name, role, profile image, Twitter link. So this is an example, Twitter link and LinkedIn link. Because this person didn't have a Twitter link, that's not really the Twitter link. So that's a hard thing to get around, when sometimes there will be 2, sometimes there won't be 2. So you can decide whether you want to capture them, whether you want to make it more vague, whether you want to be aware that it might be a LinkedIn link and not Twitter. I'll choose 10 because there will never be, hopefully there's not 10 founders. Pagination setting for this list, no more items. There won't be more items to load, and we'll save that captured list. So now we've got the detailed text as well as a list. So let's finish training this robot. it's going to try and name it the same thing as the robot I built earlier, so I will give it a unique name. As that is happening, let me show you what I meant by partner. So when you click on partner, you now have this other page, and this is a treasure trove of data. All these people have all this information about them. So you might actually be most interested for companies with certain industries who are the partners within Y Combinator for those. And then maybe that's ultimately what maybe you want this LinkedIn link of the partners. And so you're deep scraping multiple levels. Why are you doing this? Okay, well, I already built another one, so I don't have to worry about this one, I guess. Don't know why it's doing that. I doubt refreshing is going to get me what I want. Oh, look at that. It kept everything. Very cool. Let's try again. Nice. Even I'm learning things. All right. Let's call this company details webinar. So this will run and get me the details from just that one company. So now I've got a list of companies. Now I've got a robot that gets me details about the companies. How do I connect the two to get all of those companies' details from their single pages? There's a couple of ways. I'll show you them after this is done running here. So again, it's a little preview of how many list items: 3 pieces of text, 10, 1 credit. So because getting a single page uses a credit, and it's not each individual piece of data you're getting, I would just get more data. Like if it's gonna cost you something, get more data for that 1 credit. Why not, right? All right, this looks good. So there's 2 ways now. I can create a workflow. This is the recommendation that Browse AI gives you. I'll show you what this looks like because it's actually very convenient. So it says a workflow automatically runs company details webinar after YC companies list. So when I click on this, it automatically has selected robot A and robot B because it knew, hey, these are the ones that are probably connected. So I'll show you, call this workflow easy since I just clicked the button and didn't have to pick the robots. So now I can choose when I want robot B to run. So when robot A runs, do I always want robot B to run? So no matter what, only if robot A finds changes, only if robot A finds new items, or if robot A finds new or changed items. I'm going to say always in this case because I want it to run in the demo. And now the next step says, hey, you made a workflow, but nothing has happened yet. You have to either run a task to make this thing go or create a new monitor. Let me not do either of those right this second. So I built a workflow in super easy mode and it connected these 2. Let me see. Hopefully it's this one. Let me rename it. And then I'll go to my dashboard and go to workflows and make sure that I can actually edit this. So I think it didn't necessarily pick that one. So let's pick the one from the webinar. And it says all the output columns that this robot A is getting. And then we go next step. This is what it would look like if you went from scratch and didn't do that, create workflow. So I now have to select what is the URL to get to the company detail page. And that is hopefully company URL. I didn't name those. So hopefully that's what it is. And we'll click always. All right, so I've updated that. So that's a workflow I can have run, but you can also do this thing manually. So let's say I want to go to tables and I could choose either finance or automation. Maybe I could choose whatever I want, but let's say I want specifically to export these finance companies. So I'll click on this little eyeball here to view these 100 companies. Show historical data will, when you check it on or off, I'll read the little description here. If the same data is captured multiple times, whatever was captured previously is historical data. And you can choose to hide that or show it. So if it's almost always going to be, yeah, I searched this before and nothing has really changed, then you don't need to see that. But if it's maybe products have updated, maybe the price has updated, but you technically scraped the same thing. It was the same URL. So you can choose whether to show historical data or not. So I'm going to, I guess I can keep historical data on because I've only scraped this once. So let's export this as a CSV. And a couple seconds later, you have a little download link here. All right, so I'll download the list of items. And then I'll go to my company details robot. I can do a bulk run from here. This is one way to do it. I can upload it here. I prefer to do it from tables though. That's how we do recommend. So import CSV. I can download a sample if I wanted to kind of do it a bit more manually, but I'll show you how to do it where you export and then re-import. So let's click to upload and let's do downloads. And this is the one right here, YC companies. And let's open that. Something's going to look like it's wrong. It's looking for a field called origin URL. Because I exported a list that had that same field, it looks like the origin URL is the same. But that's because that's where the original robot scraped from. But I can fix that very easily. So the origin URL is not called origin URL. It's called company URL. So now you can see it's going to get all of these individual companies. So very easy fix. I prefer to do it that way than to download a sample or to change anything in a spreadsheet program. I just like to export, import, and then re-specify the origin URL. So let's start extracting that data. It's now going to do it. This is called a bulk run. So it's going to do a bulk run here. And you can see in the table the status of each of these. Usually starts from the bottom, so I can see these are in progress. The rest are queued. If I go to history for this robot, I can see the bulk run is going. It's 10% complete. So it's running 10 out of 100. I can pause it if, oh no, I imported too many and I didn't need to do that. You can pause it. And I can also click in and check the details. So I can see each of the companies, each of the URLs status. All right, 66% done. Let's go back to the table and go to, let's refresh this. Okay. So I can add a filter to, maybe I just want to see the successful ones. Cool. So as they become successful, I would see them in this table here. So now I can click in from here. I can either go down to founders if I wanted to, and then I'll see the I'm looking for the company name, but I actually don't see the company name. I only see the list. So here I would go to the company and then click into founders. So let's say I want Paloma or Paloma. Click in, I can see the founders for that company. So that's an example of doing it manually. Let's actually run the workflow. Let's run the first robot here. No, not company details. Companies lists. Let's do it for health. I don't even know what this is going to yield, but let's do it for health. And now we've got, don't forget, we've got this workflow that is set to always run. So I'm going to do a search for health and then run it. And then you'll see that that will happen automatically. So I didn't have to export and import. I just tell the first robot, hey, why don't you go get this list of companies? And then the second one will run after this one runs. So while that's going, let me show you how to do a monitor. So rather than do what I just did, which is specify, hey, go scrape these things, you can build a monitor that will do something automatically. Let's say I know I want to search every week. Sure, Wednesday, you can pick any day of the week. I'll pick Wednesday. You don't have to pick a time. You can say anytime. But let's do around 12 p.m. Origin URL will be companies, but maybe I want to change it to not companies, but maybe B2B. Maybe I want this here, and I don't actually want search term, and we'll call this B2B. I don't want to be notified by email, and then I'll save that. So another way, aside from you can scrape multiple filtered versions of this page, is you can build multiple monitors. So I might want one for B2B. I might want one for fintech. So I'll copy this URL, come in here, create a new monitor. Maybe I want this one just every month. No search terms, and I want this to be fintech. So it's a very powerful way to not have to duplicate your work, but to scrape different versions of a thing. So I've got two monitors now that will do that on the schedule I've selected. Let's go back and see the company details. History. So you can see right here, that's the bulk run I did a few seconds ago. So the workflow, and you can see it's run through workflow. So that worked. That did, as I was showing you another thing, it went through and got all those different companies worth of data. So that's pretty cool how easy that was. So I've shown you that even with a little bit of manual stuff, you can get stuff done very quickly, but also you can automate it via workflows and get that stuff going automatically so you don't have to do it manually, and then including monitors also. So the last step you might want to do is, okay, I'm getting data into this robot that has all the pieces I want. Let's integrate with something else. So you can click into Google Sheets and enable syncing to Google Sheets, choose your account. Authorizing is the same as any number of apps you've used where you have to authorize with Google, same process. I'm going to click Create New Spreadsheets. Let's call it Webinar Demo. And I can edit the mapping here. So I can change what this is named if I want to not have it be named exactly as it is in the original. I'll leave it as it is though, and I will create that spreadsheet and activate the integration. Now I can open this in a new tab. I love this little convenient feature that it shows me the Google Sheet. There's nothing in here because I haven't done anything yet, because I made this integration after I ran the robots. So you might want to keep that in mind credits wise. If you ultimately want to get it into an integration, maybe set that up and then run it. But let's run this task for, sure, let's do it for this one company and just see what happens. And then after I show you this little bit, I think I will jump in and show you a couple of website examples where some useful tips to share. Okay, so we've got this one company. All right, so it should have come into, yep, there we go. So it doesn't come into this sheet, it comes into these new sheets, capture texts and founders. And let's actually, you know what, let's just put all the pieces together as I'm showing you the other websites. Let's start a bulk run here. This automation's fine. All right, so this will get 100 companies, run the workflow, and on that second robot of the workflow, I've said put it into Google Sheets. So as I'm showing you these next couple things, that should be done afterwards. Fingers crossed. We're doing it live. Okay, so this is an example of a website where when you click, it's called Quoted. It's for, if you're looking for experts to quote for stories, you can come in here and you can filter. But when you click on these filters, let's say I wanted founders in marketing, the URL doesn't change. So this is an example of a site where you would want to train the robot to do those things. If you know that you want those specific things, you can't just click them and then get a fancy URL like you do on Y Combinator. So that's an example of where you would train the robot to do that. And then in the future, the robot will click on exactly what you wanted. And then this is an example of a website here. It's a Vancouver Web Summit. I learned this because I was doing it for a previous webinar. So if you click on Meet Our Speakers, you've got this list of people. Okay, these are the speakers. It looks one way. And if you click into startups, featured startups, it's a similar layout. It's not identical because you've got not all the same piece of data. But it turns out these are the same structure. And I can use one robot to scrape these featured startups. I can get these speakers. I can do the attendees because they're all a similar format, even if some of them have a couple pieces of data different. And when I click into a single person, it looks like this. Now, when I click into featured startups and click into a startup, it also looks like that. So in this case, I don't have to build multiple robots. And I can show you that, what that looks like, scraping different URLs that you might think, well, one is startups, one is people, that's different. It's worth trying if you have an inclination that it looks pretty similar if it's on the same website. Okay, so this ran, let's go check robots B, history. Okay, this finished. Let's go check out, yep, there's everything, Google Sheets, captured texts, founders. So all that worked in the amount of time it took to show you the other thing. So last thing, and then we'll get to questions, is this Vancouver Web Summit. Speakers list and person details. So speakers list, let's go to history. You can see I did speakers, featured attendees, and event partners, and they all worked. And then I went to person details, and I did, this is an AI, this is a startup, and this is a person, and it worked for both of them. So that's an example of, it's worth trying on a website. if it looks like things are the same. Because think about it, if you build a website, you don't want to rebuild all those components. So it will often be the case that whoever created the website will be reusing stuff like that, and you can script them very easily. So let me get to, actually before questions, sorry, we've got, Nandy's going to talk a little bit about our pricing for anyone who is interested, and then we'll get to questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. I'm just going to give everyone a little bit of an overview on our packaging, our plans, and our pricing. So my name is Nandy. I'm an SDR here, an SDR/consultant. So we have two separate plans on the slide here right now. Our starter plan and our professional plans. So as you can see here, our starter plans, like right now, most of you are probably on our free plan, if not one of our paid plans, but free plans are wonderful for people that are just wanting to set up something, play around with the platform and see if this is something they can do on their own or if it's something that gives them the results they're looking for. But it's obviously very limited when it comes to how much data you can actually extract from it. So once you feel like it works for you, we then encourage you to, start with our starter plan. So let me just bring up some information I have about it here. Okay. So for users extracting data, static data for one-time use, our starter annual plan, which comes with 10,000 credits upfront, provides, like I said, all credits upfront at the best price, saving you 20%. But if you're new to ongoing data extraction and you need to provide like actual value to either yourself or your business that you work for, our professional plan, which is the second category you see here, the professional plan, the first part of that second category is the professional plan with 5K in credits. It's more flexible because it gives you month-to-month commitment with higher limits. But for those who are migrating from a different solution or a different process, our professional plan with 60K in credits upfront provides substantial savings with, like I said, all credits upfront. So it really depends on the volume and the complexity of the data that you're looking to extract. So yeah, those two plans are self-serve plans, otherwise called do-it-yourself. But if you're somebody that's like, I don't want to do anything myself, this is the data that I want, and I just want the end result without having to do anything myself, then we have our fully managed premium services. So for premium, it basically starts at $500 a month and it's paid annually, and it is ideal for those with complex needs who want a hands-off approach. We create customized solutions tailored to your specific needs, starting with a consultation call, which will likely be with either myself or somebody else on my team. Our full service approach means we handle everything from setup to ongoing monitoring and extraction and delivery, as well as like the post-processing part of it, where you might need some specific integrations or data transformation. So you can solely focus on using the data rather than having to obtain it. We, again, like you see here, we pride ourselves on rapid deployment. So you'll be up and running in just 10 days with our data extraction experts. But there's another little segment to this as well. If you're somebody that you just need help to get set up and running, that initial setup and onboarding phase, we can help. We do have like a hands-on approach to if you just need help with that setup phase. And then for anything that comes down the road, you're like, yeah, I can do it self-serve. I just need some setup help. That's also possible. So if you want to talk about it, I'm going to put my calendar link in the chat right now once I'm done talking. And if you're someone that's like, even after, I hope the webinar gave you lots and lots of information on which direction to go. But if you're still a little bit confused, feel free to book that one-on-one call with me. It's going to be a consultation call. And based on your specific use case and your needs and what you're looking to achieve from Browse AI, I'll be able to direct you in the right direction. And yeah, I will put my calendar link in the chat right now, and I'm really hoping to talk to some of you on a one-on-one call. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Nandi. So question time. If anybody's got a live question, I'm going to grab a link to tomorrow. We're going to have an Ask Me How session. So it'd be more interactive and hands-on where you come in. It'll be a Zoom call and you can hop on video. You can share your screen if there's something you're trying to work through. So a little different than a presentation where you can come in and actually get some one-on-one or several people on one help. So let me get that link as folks are maybe asking some questions here. All right, here's a link to the session tomorrow. Office hours, ask me how. Come talk to us. So I did see a question here because I asked anything confusing you or unclear. And Jen asked how to push the robot name to Google Sheets in order to use this as a unique ID in regex formulas. That's an interesting question. Can't say I've ever had anybody ask that question. I think you would likely, interesting. The job link contains the robot ID in it in Google Sheets. Let me show you what I mean here. So I'm juggling multiple screens trying to show the proper thing. All right, so let's just go back to this guy. Yeah. So right here in the job link, you'll see this section after robots. That's the robot ID. So since it's already in Google Sheets, you could use that in some way, probably in a formula. Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. Another way would be with the API, I imagine. You could get that information pretty easily. If you're familiar with how to use an API and get that into Google Sheets, maybe using a platform like Zapier or Make, you could get things, well, yeah, you might not even need the API. You might be able to use those integrations and that data might come through. But yeah, it's in the link, right, in the job link in Google Sheets. I can train the first robot to collect links and a second to click on the links and scrape data from this second website. Yes, so it's a two-robot approach, and I actually made a YouTube video this week where I start at the end instead of where I usually start, which is the list of items. People usually know what they want to get. I want to get the data from this single page. So you start knowing that, and then you ask, well, how can I easily get all of these people or places or products or whatever? And that's where the list comes in. So you get the list of items in one robot, and then that robot needs to contain the link to the deeper page. You don't have to train that first robot to click into anything. You just scrape the list. The list contains the link to go one level deeper. And then the second robot, you train it on any one of those links that goes the one level deeper. And then you feed that second robot the new links. So if it's companies, you train it on a single company, and then you say, hey, here's 100 companies. Go to all these links. So you don't train the first robot to do all the things. You train it to just scrape a list, and the second robot gets the details. Hopefully that clarifies it. I can get that YouTube video as well, because we don't often think of it that way. I usually think of it in the chronological order. You start with list, and then you get the details. But I think a lot of people probably start with what they're trying to get, which is that end result, and then they think they have to click into all the steps from the first robots. Not the case. And here's that YouTube video. I literally called it start with the results you want, then work backwards. Might be a way people think of it before they know about deep scraping and workflows and how Browse AI does it. I need to scrape data from several car dealers, each one having many campaigns. Do you recommend to solve this with one robot in Browse or using Google Sheets plugin? Several car dealers, each one having many campaigns. You could try the Google Sheets extension, but I don't know that you necessarily have to do it that way. Probably each individual car dealer, each individual car dealer's campaign would probably share the same structure. I would build a robot per car dealer And then if each campaign is the same structure, you don't have to build multiple robots. You could either run a task on the run task page, you could monitor and get those links, you could do a workflow. But yeah, if they share the same structure, I would just try repurposing one robot for multiple needs. Now, across car dealers, no, that's not going to work. But same car dealer, yeah, that should work. Maybe we should do a webinar on the Google Sheets extension specifically, or Google Sheets, maybe overall. Each dealer has many campaigns. You could either feed the campaigns as they come, or you could even go a level above and scrape those campaigns. So I don't know if there's a page that has all the campaigns, but actually, let me show you an example of what I mean about going a level higher. One moment while I set up the thing I've got in mind. Okay, so this is a website called Product Hunt. Let's say I started on a particular category, this work and productivity category, and I want to scrape these list items, and then I want to get the details. So my first robot would be, all right, get these list items, and then my second robot would be, get these details. Cool, but I might want to go a level up instead of going deeper. I might say, okay, well, I have all these product categories. These could be your campaigns. I have all these campaigns. I don't know if those websites will have it, but like now I can just get all these categories. So I go a level up, get all these categories, and then feed that into the robot that is scraping the individual category. You know what I mean? So now this health and fitness is different than the first one, but I've now gotten that list. So you can also go up some levels if you're thinking that the website has pages that contain those things. Otherwise, you'll have to go get them manually, I guess. All right, last few minutes. Any other questions? Thanks everyone for showing up and getting some questions going. It's always interesting to get questions because that helps us with future webinars, points that people might not be clear on. Having done this for a few years now, it's easy to forget what it's like to be in the beginning. All right, give it another second. If there's no more questions, we'll wrap it up. And don't forget the link to the Ask Me How session tomorrow. If you want to show up with more specific questions, we could hop on and maybe walk through your use case or chat with Nandi as well. Will you be giving? Giving what? The link for the video. For this, yes, the recording will come to you automatically for this webinar. And as well, we'll be uploading it to our YouTube channel at some point, but you'll get the recording instantly from StreamYard. Not instantly. There's some processing, but like very shortly after. All right, we'll call it a wrap. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you in some future webinars.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.